Good day, welcome to my Media Prime. Today we welcome you also on House of Commons to discuss on what was prepared for you wonderful televiewers for this day. We are going to be answering the question as to whether Anglophones are ready for the announced dialogue by the President of the Republic. At the beginning of this week, we have had mixed reactions from political parties, from civil society organizations. The separatists themselves have made their positions known from the different angles. We've heard from other organizations. We are going to be discussing that in our program today with our panelists, three of whom are already present. We expect a fourth panelist to join us in the course of the day. We are welcoming for the first time in the studios of my Media Prime, Eno Bechemagbo. He is from the Center of Human Rights and Democracy for Africa, based
Center
in
for Human Rights and Democracy
Center for Human Rights and Democracy for Africa, based in Buea.
Yes,
Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege for me to be in the midst of other great-minded persons to discuss such pertinent issues concerning our state.
How is the Center for Human Rights and Democracy doing?
No, we are all doing very well. We are all doing very well and trying our best as to what we can.
How's Buea?
Buea is fine. Buea is fine.
Okay. Equally in the program with us is Mbaku Jude. Mbaku is dressed in a freestyle today. Mbaku, happy Sunday to you.
Thank you very much. Sometimes it's good to, really be in the mode that represents every other facet of society.
You look like a musician today.
Yes, I'm telling you, it will surprise you to know that I'm an artist. I'm an entertainer, actually. And
yes, I watched you in a movie.
Yes, I do movies, I do music. I actually play the piano, so good. Yes, and I'm learning how to play the guitar now. Yes, so sometimes you just wear those shoes. And
so one day we'll see you in a musical album.
Those are passions which you grow up with and you just want to get stick to.
Hope you are ready for the discussions of the day.
Definitely, political issues are issues which we live daily, and we are political beings. So being an artist or an actor or whatever, we still have to participate in the political process of the country. So I think...
and demands for federation. And at that level, the government was silent. And we see that it moved on to separation, where we have some people who came up that, no, they want to secede, they want to leave from this stage to this stage. The government has been silent for a very long time, where we have recorded many disasters and loss of lives and all of that. Now it got to the point where the government saw it to it that, no, this silence, they must break the silence. The Prime Minister went down to the field, he spoke to the people gave him their own views, and the Prime Minister, again, we see to it that that was not the end of that stage. Because when he went to the field, he told the people that the head of state has sent him on this mission to assure the people that he will call for a dialogue, but there will be no room for separation on the dialogue table. People were still hoping. Of course, we all were hoping, because we know that the head of state, being the #1 citizen of this country, we are still looking forward to him to hear from his own word, like they would say from the horse's mouth. Because we believe that these two speeches by two different persons will never be the same. And of course, it happened on Tuesday when the head of state surprised Cameroonians, because we expect him on days which we know, like before the 20th of May and all of that. But he came on Tuesday, he told the state that he is calling for a dialogue, for an all-inclusive dialogue with representatives from the armed groups. Therefore, this shows that separation is already on the table, because these armed groups are for separation. So when he said everybody will be represented, even members from the armed group. Therefore, Leonard, I would say this Anglophone society they have been prepared very long ago. Though now they have just been taken unaware, like ambush, we can say the time given, we can say it may be short for them to identify their representatives, because that is the only issue now. But as for preparedness, they have been prepared. Now the issue is, as at now, like a co-panelist said, we have just 15 days to the end of this month. And the head of state said, this dialogue is to start by the end of this month. This is a time for representatives to be selected, for their arguments to be cooking, and of course we are talking of selfless representatives. This is not the time for people to go on the dialogue table and begin to pamper egos. This is not a time for pampering of egos. This is a time for truth to prevail. This is a time for humanity to be prioritized. And of course, this is a time when the fate of the Anglophone people for the next generations is to be decided upon. So it is a very crucial issue.
It's a very crucial moment in the life of Cameroon and the people of the Northwest and Southwest regions. I turn now to you, Prince Joel. Are there so many Anglophone factions, because we are talking about Anglophones, speaking along different lines as we speak?
Actually, Leo, there are a lot of factions so far as the Anglophones are concerned. There are those who believe in federalism. Mm-hmm. There are those who believe in succession. There are those who believe that the two parts should come as one. So there are a lot of factions. And one thing, when I, permit me digress a bit, Leo, when I listened carefully to the head of state, a lot of persons were driven by the fact that the head of state addressed the nation. But the problem is this: did they read within the lines? The head of state said dialogue is open, but extremists as well as criminals will still face the law. Now, when you talk of extremists and criminals, some of the extremists and criminals are those who believe in succession. That is, those who believe that the southern Cameroons, that is today the English-speaking Cameroon, should not go to the other part or should not join. They are sharing the point of view of one fund by then in Bafut, Fonachirimbi of Bafut, who said to him that Nigeria was water and that French Cameroon was fire, and as such, he preferred being alone. So there are those who believe that going to French Cameroon today is no longer the solution. And there are those who still believe that they should go to French Cameroon. So we are caught in our own web. But when you read well into what the head of state said, I believe that he already had some limitations, whereas it's already not a good point. It's not a good signal. Because Cameroonians were expecting an unconditional national dialogue. An unconditional national dialogue where people come up with their various opinions without restraints. What do I mean? I mean that somebody, for instance, like Chris Ano, like the Eric Tatos, and the Elvis commenters should come on the dialogue table. It means that on a national dialogue table, any person, even if it's a fool, if you read all of William Shakespeare's stories, Mr. Leo, you're going to discover that William Shakespeare buries the truth in the mouth of somebody who behaves insane.
Yeah, but what are the conditions? What conditions have been set?
No, the conditions are this. The conditions are very simple. He says extremists who stay in the diaspora and use funds to finance and encourage the youth. I'm saying what the head of state said. Yes. And encourage the youth to commit acts of arson, kidnap, and tell children to boycott from school, that the law would meet them. And that he's pleading on the countries that are harboring these criminals. That is not a good word. When you say something like that, if somebody who is in the diaspora, for instance, like the Chris Ano, he feels threatened. Why not? Because in the same national dialogue table, there is the mention of the fact that there will be representatives of the military. And we know what happened with the Ayuk and the others when they left Nigeria, the Naira 10, and came to Cameroon. So now the question is, how secure are them? That is why somebody like John Ba Akuro, immediately the head of state spoke. He gave an interview to a newspaper in Cameroon, because he's of the Cameroon Liberation, Southern Cameroon's Liberation, something like that. Now, John Ba Akuro feels he will not take part. Whereas on a national dialogue table, the conditions would have been open. Whereas every person comes into the table and each and every person's opinion put in place. Do not forget that the head of state reiterated that top on the national dialogue table will be the Anglophone problem. You cannot discuss the Anglophone problem without people like Ayuk Tabe Julius. Now, there is a problem. Because he has his ideology, even if he says he's a separatist.
Let me recue. Is there a phrase in that speech that says Ayuk Tabe will not be part of?
No, there is a phrase that he says at one time that some people were thinking that he will use his personality as a president to release some prisoners, which he thinks that these are people who violated the law and that the law is ready to take on them. And he says that if the constitution permits him, he may. We are saying this today, Leo, because he said he has put the prime minister on a consultation table to consult other personalities. We are thinking that on the national dialogue table, every person, every Anglophone, whose opinion, because what Anglophones are claiming today, we are looking at it in 2016. No, it is something that dates as far back as 1961. If we want to bring history very close, we don't want to go to the 84. If we want to bring history very close, we'll go to 61. So every Anglophone of good opinion should sit on that table. Remember, Leo, you were not ignorant. You followed the speech. The head of state said that Anglophones cannot say they are marginalized, because since he has been president, the post of the prime minister has been given to the Anglophones. But the question is, of what quality, of what portfolio is a prime minister? I'll give you 2 examples. One, when Philip Young was prime minister of this country, we remember that the then minister of culture, Amadou Tumuna, challenged Philip Young when Philip Young created an association for musicians. Amadou Tumuna said, you cannot come into my ministry. That is a prime minister. Very recently, we remember the case of Chief Dr. Joseph Diongote, who went down the northwest and the southwest and told people that the head of state is ready to dialogue, which the head of state have finally proven. But the other minister, who is a minister of territorial administration, Paul Atanganji, on an international station said the state is not ready and that the form of the state is not. On a dialogue table, Mr. Leo, what I'm saying is bring up all the belligerents. Okay. Bring those who think that separation is good. Bring those who think that they should join. Because when these people joined on October 1961, there were those who thought the contrary. Endeli thought we should go to Nigeria. Foncha thought they should come to French Cameroon. Achirimbi thought it is complete separation. Yet Foncha won. So on the national table, let everybody come in. Those who think that they should succeed is their opinion. Those who think the union should continue is their opinion. Those who think we should stay and have our independence, their opinion should also be welcomed.
Okay, their opinion should also be welcome. You've seen pre-talks have started already. There was a meeting with ministers from the Northwest and Southwest extraction with the Prime Minister. The SDF was received, the governors and traditional authorities, to show that everything has been planned out. So the dialogue is effective because pre-talks have started.
Well, it's good. The talks are on, and I didn't expect, I knew that there were going to be those talks. Every side has to start putting in its own efforts, start preparing its own file to come on the dialogue table. But what is happening as far as those things called pre-talks, those are really not pre-talks, Leo. To me, those are just some common receptions of ideas. They are not pre-talks. Pre-talks would be, for me, what pre-talks would be what the government terms dialogue. For me, I term it pre-talks. There's something our viewers need to understand, Leo. When President Paul Biya declares a major national dialogue, this major inclusive national dialogue is within the confines of Cameroon. It embodies yesterday I even saw some trade unions in Douala here already composing their own file for the dialogue table. I started asking myself, if we mean business, national inclusive dialogue will mean bringing every other facet of Cameroonian community or Cameroonian society on that dialogue table. True, which is good. But the case we are talking about, the case of the Anglophones and the Anglophone crisis, especially that we sparked off in 2016 and we are feeling the heat today, the deadly clashes that has claimed the lives of more than 2,000 in the Anglophone part of Cameroon, is it because the nation in itself actually had problems? Is it because the traders up north, or those in Douala, or the bike riders somewhere had problems? No. These people did not have problems. So the conception of the national dialogue, it's a good thing at the level of Cameroon, but it's the wrong start for what I would have expected. We expect, when the international community asked President Paul Biya and the government of Cameroon to call for dialogue, They said dialogue with separatists. I don't know how hard some of these terms are to understand.
They said dialogue with inclusive dialogue.
Inclusive dialogue.
Yes.
Inclusive dialogue. This inclusive dialogue means dialogue with separatists. Inclusive now comes to say that, other shades of opinion, especially from the third party, could be welcome.
Yeah.
That is what makes it inclusive. But it's not inclusive to the fact that it must be held in Cameroon or any other facet. We have to focus this dialogue. We have to focus on the main protagonists of the crisis. The two main people we are looking here are the government of Cameroon and the armed separatists of the northwest and the southwest regions. If we're not targeting these two, we leave them. And who are the leaders of these separatist movements? Who are the people who compose the separatist movement? This is not an issue of political parties. In Cameroon, political parties do not have a problem. It's not about the civil society. In Cameroon, the civil society do not have a problem. It's not about these guys who are running now, parliamentarians who are running to submit files at Zongote's table. It's not about them. It's
how can you say political parties don't have a problem?
Well, they have a problem at level of, they have an internal problem within the electoral system, but when we talk of major crisis, the one that's hitting the Northwest and the Southwest region, it's not regions, it's not because of the political parties. So why we focus our attention there? Dialogue would have been called, or negotiations, as the separatists want to put it, would have been called between the Cameroon government and the separatist faction, not just any kind of inclusive. I see that inclusive good because it might bring peace, but it's tricky, and we've always known Cameroon, the French Cameroon system, to be a trickish one. Since time of reunification and up to date, even in 1994, Foncha tried this out. Foncha tried out when he actually left the tripartite conference, I'm sure. He tried that this is not what they had gone in for. Now he is seeing a system where they came in gentlemanly, and the French Cameroonian system has come in with another agenda, which is total annexation. So what I'm saying in essence is that...
What agenda is total annexation?
An agenda where you want to supremely, you want to suppress, you want to grossly take over people and impose your own structures, your own form of administration. That is what has kept us where we are today. No matter what we say, all of us want peace. We want to live together, but we must be very sure that what we do today will not cause another conflict in future like what we have today. We are facing the effect because people went on the dialogue table with very dishonest parties. The French Cameroonian system is a dishonest system. And that is why the Anglophone Cameroonians are suffering what we are suffering today.
How can you say the French Cameroonian system is dishonest when we know that there are Anglophone members in that members of government?
To have membership since time immemorial, Prince was already quoting there. We've had a succession of Anglophone prime ministers, and within the time of the tripartite conference, I'm sure it's no, it was not even Achiachu. This guy before Achiachu, there was somebody there before Achiachu.
Sadou Ayato.
Yes, I'm sure he was the one who was there. But there was a particular Anglophone prime minister who was the one at the time of Foncha. I can't really pick out the name. But then what I'm struggling to drive is that even at those periods, we still had Anglophones who were there.
Let a young man from Boya talk. Do you have the feeling that there is a lot of mistrust amongst Anglophones, and it is rendering the task of going to the dialogue table even more difficult?
Yes, there's a lot of mistrust. There's a lot of mistrust amongst Anglophones, even at the level of those clamoring for secession. We have, you can bear with me that only within this secessionist movement, we have subset groups. There are people, I can say the leadership chain of command is not unique. So the thing is, they have to mobilize themselves and agree that, okay, these are the people who are going to represent us. Only then can we say those clamoring for secession are ready. because they need to agree. Because when some of their leaders are saying they want to go in for this dialogue, and we find others kicking against this issue of dialogue, it shows that even if the ones willing come in for the dialogue, it means they'll be doing that at their own discretion. It shows that it is not a collective, collectively agreed upon. When I heard of my co-panelists on the other side saying that the head of state was talking of extremists. Mm-hmm. When we talk of extremists, Leonard, extremists are simply people who so much believe in their idea and will do whatever to make sure that their ideas count and, of course, it is accepted. At this point, I will tell you that we have two extremists. There are those who are for separation, and we have the government, which believes that it is one and indivisible. That's an extremist idea, because the government believes that he cannot move from that position, yes, which is enshrined in the Constitution, in Article 1 sub 2, which talks of one and indivisible form of the state. And the secessionists rather, they believe that this shield which the government is using as one and indivisible form of the state, to them it's a target. They believe that it is divisible, so they want their own part of it. So the issue here is these two parties need to be tolerant on each other. They need to be tolerant. They need to come on a dialogue table, and you know that, okay, this person is for separation. I am for a unitary state, which is, of course, indivisible. We have to meet. You give me your reasons why you think you want to leave, and I give you my reasons why I think you should not leave. And then they will deliberate on these issues, and, of course, they must reach a conclusion.
Strike a compromise.
Yes, they must strike a compromise, which should be acceptable by all. That is why we are saying that it is time for the right people to be selected to represent these parties. It is time for selfless people to be selected to represent these parties. When we look at Article 64 of our Constitution, which talks that no proceedings to change the Constitution and the form of the state and all of that, that is another shield for the government. Which is like, when we hear state ministers and other officials talk, they will always tell you that the state is one and indivisible. They are holding on to Article 1 sub 2 of the Constitution and, of course, Article 64 of the Constitution. That is their shield. But now the separatists on their path, they do not believe that this is something which can hinder them. So the best way for them was to use arms, which, of course, has moved the government and the head of state, of course, to call for this dialogue. The issue is they must be compromised. They must accept each other's differences. There should be a dialogue. This dialogue should be transparent. This dialogue should be safe and secure. There's need for a safe space. How are we sure that there should be that guarantee that a representative of the armed groups will come on this dialogue table and go back safe?
Okay, that is what the Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa actually stands for. Yeah, you people want a safe,
safe and transparent dialogue.
Okay, this viewer who is watching us, they did not give their name and where they are writing from. It says, if we are to go for the dialogue, who stands for us like our leaders? You read my mind, because that was my next question to to Joel. Good morning, says Fonjon Lucas from Douala concerning the dialogue of President of the Republic. It can't be successful because the main leaders of the crisis are in prison. Secondly, it shouldn't be supervised by the regime in power. And thirdly, it should not be held in Yaoundé. My reason is that Cameroon, as I can see, is a military rule country by a civilian president. Prince, who can aptly speak on behalf of Anglophones when the dialogue finally opens?
Who can? I think that
can we identify some names?
Yeah, we have persons who have already been of goodwill so far as this Anglophone process is concerned. We've seen His Eminence Cardinal Tomi. I think he's one of those whose I followed him, attended his press conferences personally as a journalist. And when I looked at his opinion, and when I looked at his ideology, even when he brought the Anglophone General Conference, I saw something in him, and I believe that if he should sit on the dialogue table, something will come out of him. Another person I would have solicited, if I were given the opportunity, is Barrister Ntumfo Nico Hale. I followed him. I'm not doing publicity for any person here. It's just my opinions I'm giving as an observant Cameroonian. I think that when I listen to Barrister Ntumfo Nico Hale talk, when I follow him, is somebody who is, do not forget that some of these people ranting today that they want to be part of the national dialogue table is because they have not eaten from the cake. They have not eaten of the national cake. But Nico Hale is part of the bilingualism and the multiculturalism commission. But at each time, he has never failed to signal the fact that the Anglophone problem is based on the fact that one part of the country is being relegated, which is the English-speaking part. And I feel that if he could be given that opportunity to speak one-on-one, which I'm sure he must have spoken severally with the head of state, but if on the national table, Nico Hale is on the stage, I believe that so many things will come up. There is one person who I hail a lot, who is a legal mind, Nkongo Felix Abo. I think that he too is good because when I follow his ideologies, even the day that the head of state was to address Cameroonians, I followed some of his write-ups on Facebook. But I think the moment, in fact, the simple truth is, any person who should sit on that table should be any Cameroonian who is selfless, who should look at the Southern Cameroons that we are. Where were we in 1961? When the Southern Cameroonians had two options, either to vote to join the Federal Republic of Nigeria or the Republic of Cameroon. And we decided to join La Republic of Cameroon because we felt that we had a lot of links together. One, we had this issue of language because a lot of our brothers, remember the Balongs, the Mbos, and the Bamili case were separated. That is why today you have what they call Mbo Anglophone and Mbo Francophone. There were a lot of reasons that favored why the Southern Cameroons decided to join. So any Cameroonian who is of goodwill, who thinks, that's why I cited this theory. There are other persons whose name I would have cited, but this theory are some of those people who have won my admiration. I'm not saying so because I know them personally. I'm not saying so because maybe they have cornered me and said, okay, Prince, you say this. No. I'm saying so because I've followed them from day one. I followed Nkongo from when he went to prison. He came out. Many were those, when he came out, they said, no, he's fighting for the post of the prime minister. But I was following him. I was following his own ideologies. It's the same case with Christian Cardinal Tumi. Cardinal Tumi, when they banned the All Anglophone General Conference, Tumi stood. In the recent what Kindi was organizing, he said, for schools to go on in the Northwest and the Southwest, all weapons must come down. And the president must call for an inclusive dialogue. And if the head of state has called for the inclusive dialogue, somebody who has been championing, it should come to the board. But any Cameroonian, I will still solicit you. If you go there and you're selfless, I could still solicit Bakujud as well as my brother Eno here. The issue is, we want those who go there, because the head of state reiterated in his speech to the nation and said, we shall discuss developmental projects of the country, but top on the agenda should be the Anglophone problem. And those who are going there should be those who know the Anglophone problem. They should be those who know where we are coming from, where we are, and what the future holds for us. Because we should not go again to another mess. There should be those who should table to the head of state. The head of state knows. There are a lot of people around the head of state. I've listened to ministers talk. Paul Atangaji says there's no Anglophone problem. There are so many ministers who say there's no Anglophone problem. So those who go into the dialogue table should be those who are conscious of the Anglophone problem, which I know. Which if you give me the time, I could deliberate for 2 hours, even till the end. Those who identify the Anglophone problem, who are selfless. They should not be those who should go there, and because they think that when you say Anglophones are not this, remember when you read history well, you rotate one of the reasons why Foncha took Southern Cameroons to La Republique, if history has not failed me, was because he was more interested in the post of the vice president than the fate of Southern Cameroons. We do not want people who go there because they think that if tomorrow they want to make vice president, they'll be the ones. We want people who will be selfless. They should redefine the Anglophone problem and set the pace so that we do not suffer, our children do not suffer, and our grandchildren do not suffer.
In conflict management, there is a need for a third party. We Anglophones don't want political parties, parliamentarians, senators, and Anglophone ministers to stand as our representatives for dialogue. This person did not send me the name or where you're writing from. It's good to dialogue, but who are the parties to dialogue? I see this as a monologue. It would have been embraced if the Anglophone leaders are released. I want to get one from our Facebook viewers. Some of them have written. Let me give them this opportunity to read out, to share with those watching at home what they think. But many people are already talking about conditions. We want these people to be released. We want it to be on a neutral ground. We want 1 and 2. We want guarantees for this. Severally, the government was accused of saying that they would not discuss separation, that the government was already putting a precondition to the dialogue. But today, we have many conditions that are being tabled before the government, before the dialogue starts. So who is setting the preconditions here?
That is why I started by saying that the dialogue called, it has a very big limitation, from my opinion. I don't know how Cameroonians look at it. All of us need peace. That's why we are welcoming every initiative. But to have an initiative that is consequential, that at the end of the day will not go back seeking for more solutions, it's very important that we set the records straight. In other places, Leo, where we've had conflict, maybe I take you to the Central African Republic, we've had the government of that country mobilizing rebel groups, bringing them on the table, sitting with them and dialoguing with their rebel leader to say that before this happens, let's strike a deal first. We keep down arms. That is ceasefire, so that we can sit on the table. That is not a precondition. It is an enabling, it is a parameter to enable that talks go on well. In South Sudan and Sudan case, we've seen Riek Machar and Salva Kiir come to the table to say that, okay, for us to talk, we must cease fire. Arms must. That ceasing fire is not a condition. Now, taking the neutral ground out of South Sudan or Sudan is not a condition. It's not a precondition. It is simply setting a precedence for dialogue so that everyone could feel comfortable. In this situation, what am I saying? That if we're genuine to ourselves to say that the president probably is calling for a genuine dialogue with separatists inclusive, you know that he has not declared, and Cameroon government has not declared immunity to the separatist leaders in the diaspora especially. How then do you expect them to come to Cameroon and dialogue? So just calling for a neutral ground it is normal. It is a parameter to ensure credible dialogue. Now, saying that a third party should come in, it's normal. What we have, somebody, if you have said that there, that is a monologue, and I want to go with that viewer to an extent, because the person who is chairing this dialogue that is coming up, as per President Paul Biya's prescription, is the head of government, Chief Dr. Joseph John Gute. He is a member of government. What assurance do you give the other their opponent, that is the separatists, that I am the one chairing a dialogue, I'm chairing it in Cameroon, so you people have not even given you immunity to come in here. Your leaders are in jail in my country. So what do you really think can convince? That is why you see the separatists instead going gaga after President Biya's speech. You heard Chris Anu instead saying that President Biya has given them more reasons to keep fighting, because the declaration of a dialogue has not followed its right precedence. It should be clear. You are coming out to call for dialogue. Be clear that I am calling. That speech wouldn't have taken up to 30 minutes for all this. Come for a 10-minute speech or so. Declare. That's why I said I want in one of the programs on this My Media Prime, that was from Prime actually, that President Biya's speech it won't have been a speech-making occasion. It would have been declarations. Declare that I am calling for a ceasefire in the northwest and southwest regions. I'm calling for a ceasefire and to ensure that we have a credible dialogue. We are picking a neutral venue that separatist leaders should send their representatives. Now, we already heard that talks were going on in Switzerland. So, if you had used that opportunity to say that they should make it over in Switzerland, it would be more credit to you, President Paul Biya and government of Cameroon. You don't expect the separatists to clap for you for trickishly calling for dialogue. And how do they appear on that table? Who carry their agenda to this table? Do they need to hire a firm from Belgium, Norway, America to bring their case file to the dialogue table in Cameroon? Or how do we have to call Phil Marshall, the dreaded guy who is of the fighting groups in the Amazon? Do we have to call him to come on that table? How do we represent the voices in a way that every party will not feel threatened? This is for the sake of the state. This is for the sake of every child living on that Anglophone soil. Because when we keep playing with issues like this, we are risking the lives of those children on that soil. We are risking the life of every Cameroonian on that soil. We should not take politics and play some things. President Paul Biya, we want dialogue. We want Cameroon to be one. We want Cameroon to have peace, like we've always wanted since 1961 through to 1994 and through to today. Yes, if we want that, should we now say that for a credible dialogue to hold, let's get to a neutral ground? Probably it should not be Nigeria, because Nigeria has shown us bad faith by bringing the separatist leaders, extraditing them without an extradition treaty to Yaoundé. Let's pick a neutral ground out of here, pick a neutral third party out of here.
Okay.
They sit on the deliberation table. Everybody can comfortably. That is not precondition.
Okay.
Those are just parameters to ensure credible dialogue.
Good day to you all in the studio. Just a proof. Just as Prof. Abangma James wrote, the major national dialogue will suppress the Anglophone dialogue, which will be a repetition of the Fumban Conference. In a nutshell, there should be a dialogue with the government in power and the Anglophones. We are always ready for dialogue, but it should take too long while lives are vanishing. Modika Solomon, writing from Boya. Good day to you all in the studio. I'm enjoying the program. I hope the government won't keep on adjourning the dialogue till 2035. It's Godwill, writing from Yaoundé. Good day to you, Godwill. We are 25% ready because what we requested as the preconditions have not been met, not even 10% of them. I don't know what preconditions you requested, Pius. We need a pre-dialogue gathering to agree on the points to be tabled during the Grand National Dialogue. Who takes the lead here then? That's the million-dollar question. If we can't agree on this, we'll be going for the dialogue with many voices. Pius Swekom Douala. Pius, good day to you and family. The government should bear in mind that they no longer control us, as we are the ones paying taxes for them. Why they provoke us with their CA Prados? This one says some ministers need to be sacked from their positions. Okay. Good day, honored panelists. God bless you, Mbaku, and give you more wisdom. Eva Dawo, writing from Moya in Boya. Luis, writing from Limbe, says, greetings to all in the studio. Mr. Leo, if the dialogue is held without those who asked the boys to pick up arms, who will ask them to drop the arms? Okay, Luis, this one says, good day, sirs. I think Anglophones as a whole are very ready, but the worry now is who to represent the Anglophones, where and how safe will the representatives be? Ta Bertrand, writing from Bomenda. Ngale, writing from Limbe, says the president of Cameroon needs to release our leaders. They are the ones to sit down for the dialogue. Okay, many questions raised here. The Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa in Boya, are you also concerned about those to represent to talk on behalf of the Anglophones, because many people are really, really worried about those to represent them at the dialogue.
Yes, we are very, very much concerned. I would like to take you back to at the time of the post-electoral appeals at the Constitutional Council. Barrister Nkongo Felix Agbo, he made a statement, and I quote, that Mr. President, make history. Those who are going to be selected for that dialogue are people who they ought to know that what they are going to do is to make history. He always says that speak truth to power. This is a time to speak truth to power. This is not the time for people to pamper the egos of others. This is a time when it is rather a challenging issue for now, because people may be clamoring to go on the dialogue table for self-interest. Others may be clamoring to go there for general interest. But it is rather challenging, to know that people who are to go there for general interest, those people may not be recognized. But rather, if those who are going there with self-interest are put on the dialogue table, it will rather be a tragedy for us, because I will call this, it will be a second phase of the Fumban Conference. We will discover that the Anglophone plights may not be treated, the Anglophone problems may not be solved, but rather it may aggravate. Leo, we have the Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa. We have recorded about 2,000 deaths as a result of this crisis. We have over 206 villages burnt, partially or completely. And we have over 600,000 displaced persons, internally and externally. These records, I tell you, we do not hope for any increase in these records. So it is only this dialogue which has been called that will determine, if at all, we are to mourn just those who have died, and if there will be a guarantee for safe return of others, or there will be a guarantee of safe reconstruction of those destroyed villages. But if at all we witness the second phase of the Fumban Conference, I would say that it will be a regret on us, because this number might even triple. Because it will be like you going for a dialogue and your own conditions, as it happened in Fumban, are not accepted. And so you come back with that grief. You want to cause more pain. At this time, it is a time when we expect no hostility. We expect no human rights violations. We expect no human rights abuses.
Okay.
We expect that both camps should drop their arms and, of course, be cooking their arguments for the dialogue. Okay.
Cooking their arguments for the dialogue. Kum Kenneth Ewison. I'm glad to know that you are following the program. This one says, watching from offshore. Pius Anyinwi Chair. I read your message already. This one says, Ayuk Tabe Sako Cho Ayaba are the main hand on the southern Cameroon side who are supposed to be on the table. Banye Maxel says it's a good thing. The president has called for a national dialogue. I believe if all should go well, the government should not choose who to sit on the table. I don't know whether the government is choosing already. Free Miranda Shosho. I'm glad to know that you are watching us. I don't know whether you're watching from Douala or from Limbe. Extend greetings to the family. Now, to you, Prince. Was there need for Anglophones to gather themselves in the likeness of the AAC 1 and 2 in preparation for the announced dialogue? And why not even negotiate to get us to the position where we are all advocating for now?
It was very necessary, and that is why a school of thought holds that the Anglophone General Conference should maybe meet before the national dialogue. Remember earlier, even before the Southern Cameroons went to La République, there was a tripartite conference. There was a tripartite conference that brought together the Southern Cameroons.
No, tripartite conference took place in 1991, eh?
No, I'm talking about history, about Foncha. Remember, okay. Foncha and the British were Synod Philisim. That was French an English specialist.
Okay,
that was said.
Far back.
Okay. Now, that's I'm saying that it is very necessary. I'm done with your question. There is need for Anglophones to meet to really meet in another conference. When I talk of Anglophones, I think this is high time that Cardinal Tumi's ideology should be brought to play, because Cardinal Tumi's ideology is a father whom I respect so much. Is somebody whom I've attended his press conferences here in Douala. And I've seen his ideologies. And Cardinal Tumi, his ideology is to bring to the table, first of all the belligerents. That is the different factions. That is what Cardinal Tumi wanted, from what I gathered, and even from his spokesperson, who is an elderly friend and a brother, Eli Smith. That's what I gathered. It means that they wanted to bring the belligerents to the table, and they now position what the belligerents are saying to the government. So I still feel that it is time for the Anglophones to still meet and now know what they are channeling to Yaoundé, because I still fear that after this national dialogue, we may still find ourselves in a quagmire that may still take us some years back to another national dialogue. I think that 50 years is not 50 days. I think that 50 years is not 50 hours. The time has been much. It is high time that we sit as one, Anglophone sit, and we take up one thing to the head of state. He has said he is willing for the national dialogue, and that anything that we present now, that is willing, that is what he said, if we should follow him well. Though within him, remember when you read Animal Farm, there's one patriarch that I left out when I was citing people earlier. When I came to Animal Farm, I remembered him. He is Ayapo Labine. I think that is one of the founding fathers that should sit on that table. Why? Because he when I follow one of his write-up, he quoted Animal Farm, where George Orwell, in a text, they say all animals are equal. But when Napoleon becomes king, Napoleon says all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. So we are struggling that we should not have a situation where, because the head of state in his speech, he made it very clear. He said that Anglophones have never been marginalized, which means that the Anglophone problem we are claiming to have today does not exist. That's what he said. Because he said since he has been president, Anglophones have been benefiting for the post of the prime minister. That is what he said. And his closing statement was very simple. Cameroon will remain one and indivisible. When you go by that statement, we do not need a language professor here to teach us that. That statement itself means that Cameroon will never be divided, which means that those who come with secessionist opinions will not be welcome on the dialogue table.
What mindset would armed groups bring there?
No, now that is another problematic. When you say armed group, who is an armed man? This is something I discussed on another platform yesterday, and I believe a lot of Cameroonians watched it. When you say armed groups are welcome, who is an armed man? Is it a hunter who hunts every day? Is it somebody who carries knives and steals from people? Who is an armed man? Because I spoke with a lawyer, and the lawyer told me that what is ongoing in the Northwest and the Southwest is not a war. I said, why are you saying so? He says it's no war. That in a war front, there are two things. One, there is a known enemy who is identified. If I ask you today to go and bring me an amber, will you bring the person? No, you will not. But in Boko Haram, we used to identify Boko Haram persons.
What are you saying?
What I'm saying is that when you say armed men can be part of the dialogue table, who is an armed man? Who is armed? Is an armed man any person who has a gun? Is an armed man hunters? Do you expect, because the head of state, some of you did not take time to read within the lines. The head of state said this, that he has created the Center for Disarmament, Reintegration to the society. And that so many people have disarmed themselves and the state has embraced them. And that those who are still holding arms, the law will face them. And if they drop their arms, the state will embrace them. If not, the law will follow them. Do you expect someone who has been carrying arms, for instance, in Akwaya, in Kambe, in Ako, in Misaje, to take his gun in the national table and say, the school or the military, the teacher they killed in Bamenda, I cut off his head? The head of state says the law will follow him. Those are some of the things. I think the head of state would have been very clear. The military has no place in this game. The military has no place. On the dialogue table, the military has one work in the country. It is to protect the country from the borders. That is, the foreigners should not come in. We cannot be discussing territorial issues. We cannot be discussing issues that have got with two countries, the Southern Cameroons and the La Republic, and we have the military. No. And we know to whom the military is, it takes part. We remember what people like the parliamentarian for Jakiri constituency, Honorable Joseph Weber, what he said. He said, Mr. Speaker, are you angry because the slave has written, bring the brutal gendarmes to arrest me? The people will not feel free when the army is there. Let there be no army. Let there be no armed man. Because to me, there's nothing like armed. That word armed, it is just grammar, Elio. It is just a grammar that if you take to a language teacher, he may analyze better. What do you mean that armed men will be welcome on the dialogue table? Who is an armed man?
Okay, let me take this one. Richmond Chair says it is important to note that not all Anglophones are separatists. Some are federalists and some are unionists. It's not because some have guns that means their opinion is paramount. People are just calling those in prison Anglophone leaders, which is wrong. I'm an Anglophone, but not a separatist. Ayuk Tabe doesn't speak for me because I don't know who made them leaders. Besides, they were already impeached by their own camp. I also think ceasefire is agreed by both parties. Holding guns are not supposed to be called by the president. Ceasefire should be called when the dialogue has just started. Julius Nji, writing from Berlin, that should be in Germany, says the dialogue is fake and dead on arrival. Okay, Julius Nji. Ivor Wana, writing from Bamenda, says the dialogue is something we all have been clamoring for. But I think if the head of state really wished to put an end to the Anglophone civil war, he should first call for a ceasefire, release those locked up due to the war. But the one to champion it and not the prime minister. Okay, the president should champion it and not the prime minister. Invite international bodies such as UN, AU, EU, etc. Then it should be held in a neutral ground so that those in the diaspora can freely attend. Okay, Ivor Wana, we are glad you wrote from Bamenda. Let me take two more messages and then we ride on with the program. Greetings to you all. I am Paul from Bamenda. If those in the diaspora find it difficult to prepare and participate in the Grand National Dialogue, they should come to the field and we go to the diaspora. That's when they will discover that if they are not ready to serve the people, they are not leaders, but they work for their self-interests. Good day, Mr. Liu. Hitler described the Paris Peace Treaty as a treaty to start all the world wars. I'm seeing the dialogue as a forum to start the Anglophone crisis and not the end to the crisis because the terms are not clear. Keju is writing from Limbe. This is God love from Bamenda. I think that is not dialogue. President Paul Biya is calling for a dialogue because the UN National Assembly is coming up. Okay. Greetings in the house. We are not that prepared for the grand dialogue due to the fact that our mouthpiece, the people speaking for the Anglophones, are in prison. So then, who will speak fire for us? Who will hit the rod while it's hot? I say so. This is called Grand National Dialogue. It's just a waste of time. Chris is writing from Douala. As our case is new, we must think the acts are new. Time should not be wasted for the dialogue to hold because lives are perishing and this time it should be carefully managed. This time, Fumban at night should not repeat itself. This is Achere writing from Yaoundé. Hello to you all in the studio. I think if we are ready to solve our problems in just less than 2 weeks, then what was the government doing for the past 3 years? This crisis can be solved if we choose to follow the truth. Okay. We should trust President Biya's means of solving Anglophone crisis through dialogue because he has the best advisors like Issa Chiroma Bakari of FSNC. Kaimbi Promise, militant of FSNC, Northwest. Okay, Kaimbi. Yes, the cardinal can represent us well, but let the president release all separatist leaders. I'm Daniel, writing from Bamenda. Good day. Prime Minister is the fifth position in Cameroon. He cannot even appoint SDO. Is that the post to be given to Anglophones? It's a shame. Mr. Mi, Yubi. We are 100% prepared for this dialogue. We have suffered a lot and the dialogue should be free and fair. Okay. Good afternoon to you guys in the studio. I'm happy and happy Sunday. Dialogue, dialogue, dialogue. How genuine is the genuine dialogue? How can a member of a team be called to be a match official? Failure I see in this. AU or UNO should be part of the dialogue. If not, I see this as a scam. I am Fekado in Yaoundé. Happy Sunday to you guys. It's Leonard from Moliko. Dialogue is good, but calling on dialogue after sentencing our leaders in prison on Sunday, which is not even a working day. Okay. Greetings to you over there. I think for this dialogue to move well, the president have to release all those in prison, and equally, the dialogue should not hold in Yaoundé. Thank you all in the studio. I'm enjoying your program. Clarkson Ngwa, writing from Limbe. Good afternoon, sir. I suggest that since the Anglophones claim to have a leader and we all know who it is, for this to work, I think the president should talk with even as he is in prison. Ask him what his people want, okay? Boniface from Limbe. If this dialogue is to take place, the best option for whoever is sit, okay. Dialogue will be appropriate if the leaders are liberated. You can't keep my children in captive and you expect me to talk peace with you. It means you are not serious. Abomego Derek, writing from Douala. Lots of people are talking about the need to release Ayub Tabe. If he were to be released today and talk, would people believe in him, given that he has been impeached and even vomited by some groups?
Those impeachment things, there are internal wranglings among the ranks of the separatist group, but you know, when they come out to the fold, they are something else. You know,
is that what is it factual?
Yes. What I'm saying is that whether the separatists impeach Sisiku or not, they still have another leadership. Sisiku can even rot there in jail. Sako is there.
Yeah,
Ayaba is there.
My question is, if Sisiku Ayub Tabe were to be released today, and he comes out to say, okay, because I've been released, let's go for dialogue, would they believe him?
They would. You know, one of the reasons why Sisiku was impeached by the guys in the diaspora was because they feared that leaving him with the presidential powers on him, he might be what they call compromised. You know, that's why they had to impeach him, to take back the powers from him, so that they over there be the ones to pilot the decision making. They didn't actually impeach him because they wanted to throw him to the dogs, like you want to put it. They impeached him because they wanted to retract power, so that even in jail, they should not use him as a tool to override their intentions over there. But Leo, there are people who feel that a viewer over there said Sisiku is a leader of some people. It does not represent Anglophone per se. It's true that when the separatists did their elections over there in Nigeria and then went to the US, it wasn't the entire Anglophone community that chose these guys. It was the diaspora guys who decided to choose their leadership. And then, fortunately or unfortunately, they imposed their agenda. And many people on ground zero bought this agenda because they identified their problems. These guys who are in the diaspora, they are also Anglophones. Remember, they are Anglophone, they are children of this soil as well, who have seen things going wrong, though in a foreign land. And remember that these same people will never step foot on this soil if things do not go well. So they are struggling to also make sure that the fear is leveled in a way that they too can have a voice. So I think that saying that Sisiku and the other guys, they do not have a voice because they are not leaders chosen by you, it will not help us solve this problem. If we want to solve this problem, we must be honest in the procedure. And that is why in '94, again, Foncha regretted the fact that coming into this union, the 1961 union between the French Cameroon and the British Southern Cameroon, the Anglophones would not have come into this union if they knew that they were going to desolate the agenda of federation in the very first place. It was a federation between two states. It was not a form of government where one will suppress the other and it becomes like nothing happened. So, where have we gone wrong that even one clause of the agreement could not be kept? A gentlemanly agreement Anglophones went into to say that, okay, if the prime minister is from here, the president is from here. Have we ever had, for the past, since the days of Ahidjo, and we are 58 years or so today into the union, 56 to 58 years or so into the union properly, have we ever had, 1961 to today, have we ever had an Anglophone as president of this country? Why does President Paul Biya in his Tuesday speech think that Anglophones are only good to be some prime ministers who are toothless, prime ministers who cannot take firm decisions in this country, prime ministers who are even at the fifth position of the rankings as far as power is concerned in the nation? Why are some of those simple clauses very difficult to keep? And that's why I keep repeating that Anglophones going to this dialogue table, it's not like the state of Cameroon does not know what the Anglophone wants. We are going to this table as Anglophone is just for formality. Over the years, what the Anglophones want have always been articulated. They have been bundled and filed. Everybody knows. So what is going to be peculiar in this case? It was about time President Biya came out with declarations, said that we are going back to the 1972 Constitution, to the Federal Constitution, to ensure that two entities have their various protections as they had come into this union. That would have given, those are declarations that will make a state, before they even killed the federal system in 84?
72.
82.
72.
So 72 was the federal setup, and they killed it.
In 72.
And went into the the unitary system in 72. Who did they consult? Did they hold another meeting like this to bring everybody on the table, Anglophone community on the table?
Okay.
To ask, like, because let me say something. In the 1961 Constitution, the rules were clear. You cannot change this Constitution without coming back on the table with this same Anglophone leadership. The Fonchas leadership, you must come back on that same table.
Okay. Okay.
And then change the Constitution with them. But they went ahead and changed.
I don't know whether the name of Foncha was written in the Constitution.
I'm talking about the leadership of Anglophone. Foncha at that time represented the face of the Anglophone.
Was it written there that this Constitution would never be amended without consultation from the Anglophones? Was it there in the Constitution?
Of course.
It was written that the
federal Constitution was not to be changed for any reason.
Yes.
So what happened that it would change to a united report?
You are adding a phrase that they should consult the Fonchas or the...
No, I'm saying that at that point, Foncha was a focal for the Anglophone. Okay. Like we have the Anglophone groups that are there today.
Good afternoon in the studio. I like the program, but my question here is, what happened with the Switzerland peace talk that started already? Amanda's writing from Bamenda. Prince, thank you for being straightforward. Roderick is writing from Yaoundé. Roderick, good afternoon to you and all of you watching us from Yaoundé. There can't be any sincere dialogue between the two parties without the international bodies. We have been deceived a lot by the BS government. Enough is enough. Cliff is writing from London. We are glad to know you are watching us from Queen Elizabeth's country. Hope you guys are enjoying out there. This one says the president should grant amnesty to those in prison and demilitarize the Northwest and Southwest regions before we should start thinking of dialogue. I think the president is not ready to dialogue. If not, he shouldn't be talking of dialogue and the same time saying separation should not be brought on the table. Wilson Ajong, writing from Moliko in Boya. This one says, hey, I'm sure Popo is trying to do the Southern Cameroon like he did with the Makizas. We are wise now. Joe from Kumbo. I don't know what he did with the Makizas. Good afternoon to you guys in the studio. I would suggest the dialogue should be held elsewhere apart from the center because the Anglophone representatives will not be safe. Is Claude Berigny writing from Yaoundé. Good day, guys. Please, the dialogue should take place, but in Boya. Joe Johnson writing from Limbe. Johnson, good evening to you guys. Happy Sunday to you in the studio. Let us all be understanding that God's will is the best. I think this is God's time. The ways of man is not the ways of God is not the ways of man. Roland writing from Mutengene. Good day, sir. I'm Immaculate from Bamenda. I think it's a good thing the dialogue has been called, but I also think the president should have released all those jailed in connection to the crisis because it would also quench some tempers. Good afternoon, guys. Fred writing from DOP. No ceasefire, release of all arrested concerning this crisis, no dialogue. Okay. Good day. I think only a change of government can solve the Anglophone problem. Luis Adamu writing from Yaoundé. The president to remove the prisoners and the president needs to go to the Northwest and Southwest for the reconstruction of houses. There should be equality in Cameroon. I'm Roland from Asharika. I don't know where Asharika is. Good day to you in the studio. It's Leo from Tico. I think Anglophones are ready because the points of SDF are to be taken serious before dialogue holds. Happy Sunday to you in the studio. I'm enjoying the way you guys are chairing this debate. To my own opinion, let the president step down and let all the state officials be at the same platform so that after the dialogue, when they must have come to a compromise, then we can now go in for a new, fair and transparent election that will favor our nation. Ella is writing from Bamenda. Good afternoon in the house. Dialogue is something we are all hoping for. It's Florence from Kumbo. Good day, sir. If the third party, then the dialogue will end up like the Constitutional Council of 2018, and all the so-called dialogue should hold. Then the 2 stars be brought back on our flag. America has 52 states, and on their flag there are 52 stars. Fritz, writing from Lum. Shalom, greetings. Where there is no vision, my people perish. I don't see this dialogue working positively with those involved still behind the bars. Okay. Many people are talking about boycotting the dialogue. Is that the best option?
I would say boycotting the dialogue is not the best option. Because from 2016, when this crisis escalated, people have always been clamoring for dialogue. That the head of state should come and call for a dialogue. He has been talking through ministers per se, yet the people were not convinced enough, or rather they were not satisfied, that he should come down from his high horse and talk to the people that he is ready to dialogue with them. And now that he has called for the dialogue, boycotting the dialogue, I'm afraid will not be the best solution. It will not be a best solution. And to what my brother on the other side was saying, he was talking about amending the Constitution. The Federal Constitution, in Article 47, sub 1 of that Constitution, it states that no bill to amend the Constitution may be introduced if it tends to impair the unity and integrity of the Federation. When we come to...
But my point there is, nowhere was it mentioned that without consulting Foncha.
Leadership of Anglo.
It was not there. It was not there. That is it.
Yeah, yes, when we come now to the 1996 Constitution, in Article 64, it is stated there that no procedure no procedure for amendment of the Constitution affecting the Republican form, unity and territorial integrity of the state and the democratic principles which govern the republic shall be accepted. When we look at the word shall means must. It's like obligatory. And when we take this shall and the no procedure, it says that procedures shall not be accepted. It shows that this is more like a challenge on this dialogue issue, because mind you that this dialogue would rather be a sham per se, if at all, issues on the form of the state, issues on amendment of the Constitution, and issues on release of detained Anglophones' relation to the crisis are not discussed.
Yeah, but these issues on the need for the change of constitution may arise, because we should also understand that it was during the tripartite conference that was held in 1991 that occasioned the Constitutional Commission that gave birth to the Constitution of 1996 that also changed, because previously we had province and then they moved to regions. Decentralization. Yeah,
that is what I am saying. That the government should maybe take off itself from that defensive Article 64 of the Constitution, because it should not think that this Constitution will not be amended. Because mind you, most Anglophone representatives who would go on that dialogue table will go on issues of amending the Constitution. That will be the prior issue. Because if the Constitution is not amended, everything that is to be discussed must be in confines with the Constitution. And that may not go in line with the views of the separatists. Because first, it is already hindering their own ideas. So the Constitution, if at all it arises, which of course it should, then it should be permitted to be discussed on the table. But boycotting the dialogue is rather, it's not a welcoming idea for me. It is not a good one, because let us go for the dialogue and see what it has to produce. Rather than neglecting, better let's go and see that the dialogue was not worth it, though we don't pray that it shouldn't be worth it. We pray that this dialogue should yield fruit. Of course, it should ensure a lasting peace and solution to this problem. It should result to solutions, to fruits, which, of course, the after now generation will celebrate and not regret.
Okay, we should celebrate and not regret. The PM is Anglophone. And we are talking about an Anglophone problem. Is that why he has been given charge to solve his own issues?
You would have loved that the PM should be in charge if at all the PM was the PM. I'm saying so thinking of the PM that Paul Biya was in 1975. Remember that Biya became president in 1982 because the Constitution said in terms of resignation, the Prime Minister automatically becomes president. That is how Biya Paul B. Vondo Bartholomew became president 6th November 1982. But now when we look at the Prime Minister of Cameroon today, is he the PM that Biya was in 1975? No, he's not. And we think that he is still one person that Biya at will decides who to appoint. Qualifications will no doubt. Chief Dr. Joseph Diongote is a doctor. It means academic-wise we do not doubt. But at times, the head of state decides who he nominates the PM. But I feel, and I want to tie with what other panelists have said on set, that I want to buy, Leo, I keep insisting on many platforms I pass, that I'm not a politician. But when I went through the points of the Social Democratic Front, it is true other points are coming up from other political parties, from other civil society organizations. The head of state has instructed the Prime Minister to make consultation. Instructed. That's another one. So we start doubting how he could chair. Now, the SDF in their proposals they submitted, one of them is very simple. They say, one, the inclusive dialogue should be chaired by a neutral party. Neutral means the PM comes out of the game. Because the PM is appointed by the head of state. It already means that the PM is representing the head of state. So let a neutral person come into the ballgame. That's the first thing they proposed, which I'm very correct with them. And the second thing they say, let the inclusive dialogue trace the root cause. Root. It means we're not looking at the fruits. Because some of us today are looking at the PM, even him, the head of state, say, no, I've been appointing PM, even the former Prime Minister, Chief Enoni, or Enoni Ephraim. No, This man from the northwest, Filimuyang. He said Filimuyang stayed there for more than 10 years, for close to 10 years before he appointed another Southwesterner. But he said to trace a root cause. It means that a majority of us today, Leo, are looking at the fruits. We're not looking at the roots. The SGF insists that we should trace the root causes of the Anglophone crisis. It means that when we meet on the national dialogue table with a neutral party, that's the first point they raise. The second is, let us trace the root causes of the Anglophone problem. What are the root causes? This country, when Southern Cameroonians came to Middle Republic, they agreed as one brother that we shall go for a federal constitution, we shall go for a federal state, and that the both languages shall have equal length. Leo, permit me say this, that if the head of state, in his address to the nation, if he spoke in English, would have won hearts. But as usual, for the so many years I've seen him till 82, as usual, there is always somebody to interpret or translate after the other language. Remember that one of the reasons why Biya won a lot of admiration in 83 was in his nationwide tour to the people, he said something. He said, I was born a Cameroonian, I'll live a Cameroonian, and I'll die a Cameroonian. Hey, Anglophone said, hey, so we have somebody who could speak in English. Because those were things that his predecessor, Ahijo, has never done. Now, so they are saying that we should trace the root causes. We do not want a country where you go to an office, the national station, for instance, they write it in Balade, they say, tirer, and then the French expression, they say, draw. What's coming into your door today? It is pool. It's very common. But now those are those grammatical errors that are coming up. So want both languages to be equal. Let us trace the root causes. That is some of the proposals they brought. And another case is, we should go back to what? All people who have entered prison because of political reasons, like the Ayok Tabe. Ayok is in prison today because of the Anglophone crisis. Let them come out of jail. Let them sit on the dialogue table. Those are some of the points they brought up. And they also insist that another party should be added to the ball game, like Germany, like America. Let this dialogue be open, Leo. So much so that for once and for all, let us trash this thing. I'm saying so because if we Anglophones still go with the egocentric tendencies that Foncha and the others took, we may in the days ahead.
Now, let me get back to you. Is the option of boycotting better one?
No. If we boycott the national dialogue, we have given the head of state a 90 on 100% pass exam. Why? Because he will tell the national community that the international, thank you. He will tell the international community that there was call for a national dialogue, which I've given. And do not forget, the head of state, Paul Biya, said that he is giving the prime minister the opportunity to hold consultation talks and bring him proposals that can solve the Anglophone problem. So whatever thing we are saying today, these are still consultation talks, which means that we are still believing that the head of state is listening and that somebody is listening, and that we should come out of this thing. Because if we think we should boycott, like I'm hearing most people say, I listened to John Bakuro the other day on an interview granted a newspaper in Cameroon. He said they will not participate in the elections, or they will not participate in the national dialogue.
Like the SDF did in 1993.
Correct. Yeah. I also read through Dr. Mfosusungi's write-up. He brought a lot of reasons why they will not participate. No, you should rather give reasons why you should participate. Because if we do not take part in this thing, Leo, I've spoken with a lot of Cameroonians. If we do not take part in this thing, it is a clear indication that he extended a hand that he wants to talk, and that we were the ones that turned it down. And to have another opportunity, do not forget that we're talking about a president who is lion-hearted, and that it is very rare to see him come out the way he came out on Tuesday 10, which means that if we miss this opportunity that is coming out at the end of this month, to have another one, we do not know when.
Okay. Good evening, Realistic Minds in the studio. To be more serious, Almighty Biya has simply come to free himself from an embarrassing show-up that might come up at the next UN National Assembly. But now, however, Half bread is better than none. History has given us an opportunity to leave a better world, Cameroon, for our children. We must not politicize situations if we love the future for our children. Anglophones from the Northwest and Southwest must know that it's time to rewrite Fumban, even under such rocky conditions. The Bia's announced dialogue may not be a magical panacea, but the way forward, let's grab this opportunity. Sir Mario, writing from Yaoundé, clearly in line with what Joel just said. Good afternoon, guys. I think if the president is ready for this dialogue, he should release the Anglophone leaders why the creation of the bilingualism and creating opportunities for Anglophones now after 57 years in power. The dialogue is good, but very dangerous. Love it. Ikai, writing from the United States of America.
Wonderful.
Good afternoon. In order to have a veritable dialogue, the Vatican or the Swiss government should chair it. Prior to this, Mr. Biya should release all in jail, like Ayuk, Julius, Maurice Kamto, and all Cameroonians in exile to have general amnesty. It's time the dialogue saves Cameroon or sing Cameroon. May God help us. It's Joseph Isokolo, writing from Isokolo in Limbe. If the dialogue is to solve the Anglophone crisis, then it should be in Boya with all the leaders. The UN be part of the dialogue. Ngale, writing from Limbe. Every new idea and initiative, even the inclusive dialogue called by the president, meets with resistance. We have to find the courage to take risk, even to fail, if the goal is worthwhile. Bishop Alfred Ayuk, writing. This one says, waste of time. Any dialogue without Ayuk Tabe is a waste of time. Ishmael, writing from Limbe. Okay, good afternoon to you all. For me, I don't see the dialogue as being serious. Okay, Baku, we have 2 minutes. Your take, senators and MPs, is it time for them to go across the board, look across the board beyond their political caps, come together and then rewrite what they failed to do, to talk about this at the National Assembly and at the Senate?
Those guys are a bunch of non-entity. They're not supposed to be on that table.
Okay.
The reason is simple. We have every Senate of a nation, every parliament of every country, supposed to have treated this issue from day one, supposed to have discussed it in the parliament or in the Senate. They will not keep their mouth shut and only surface at this moment.
Are you saying that even
disgrace.
SDF MP should not be there?
Well, when I say the Senate as well, I'm globalizing because they did not discuss it. But on a personal note, I appreciate those few oppositions that came in, because we have people of the CPDM who thought that they should protect their own CPDM party to the detriment of Anglophones. Is a sad thing. That's why I keep repeating that we have a non-ethical Senate and Parliament that does not work for the nation. Every parliament that is not fruitful shouldn't have even existed. And that's why them being on that table will be of no importance. It will be of no use. The people who should be on that table, I even see this as a pre-talk. This is not dialogue that is coming up. President Biya is just doing a pre-talk because like we're asking if these people of the separatists should boycott. They should not boycott. This is what I propose that they do so that we quickly have a solution. Since President Biya has not declared immunity for them to come over, they could compose and send, maybe get a law firm to represent them on that table here in Cameroon. They put their proposals on the table that this is what we want. The Anglophone community, you put your proposals on the table, then they declare a grand dialogue in whatever form that will constitute the parameters that have been given. But to go and start bringing in senators, parliamentarians, people who could not open their mouths and speak for their people in parliament, they are just inconsequential in this whole process. I'm sorry to say so.
Okay, we are unfortunately out of time. We have to call it quit at this juncture of the program. Eno Bechem Agbo from the Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa, all the way from Boya. We are glad you were part of the show.
Thank you very much. It's always a privilege to be on such platforms to talk on such pertinent issues of our state.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are glad. Mbaku Jude, Thank you for coming.
The land is our own. We have to fight it. It's our own. We have to stay here. God bless every Cameroonian from every part of this triangle.
Thank you for coming.
You are always around and ready to answer to the call to My Media Prime. We have 15 days to go. It is very pregnant. Let's wait and see what it gives birth to.
We want to thank everybody who has been watching. A special thank you to, or greetings to you, Amwam, who is watching from South Africa. Extend greetings to Kaka. Tell him I send greetings to him and to the family out there. We want to thank you, Desmond, and to you, Eli. We want to thank Corinne, who should be at the broadcasting, and to everybody who has taken time off to watch this program. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.